Come back to 3 weeks into the no snack kickstart. Those of you that follow my fitness pal will notice that I haven't been tracking for the last week or so, mainly because I've been eating the same thing most days, but also just fallen off the wagon a little bit. And I'm going to get back on there today. As I stated on day one, or just prior to starting the kickstart, I was going to do some experimentation during the kickstart. We've had a lot of transitions happening over this last couple of weeks that have taken a lot of my time and stopped me from doing that. But I'm going to start today. I've actually started already today. And what I want to do for the final 10 days or so of this kickstart is to add in, for myself, a bit of time restricted eating. What that means is that basically I'm only eating in an 8-hour window each day. Now, this is not a new experiment for me. I have done this before. I haven't done it in this context, though, amongst this kickstart. So I wanted to put it in for this last 10 days, just really to see how it fits with my lifestyle. This is more for me to be an experiment as to whether this should be a long-term change. So what I'm going to do, I like to keep things simple and things that will work on the long term. So I'm going to experiment currently with basically skipping breakfast. I've always been a breakfast person. I've always eaten breakfast, but I found I can pretty much cope without it. And that's going to keep me into the window where I'm basically eating for 8 hours a day and fasting for the 16 hours that remain. A lot of you may have already done the 16-8 challenge. I just like it for the simplicity of it. Allows you a longer fasting window, and having a longer fasting window will give you that bit more time for your body to utilize its body fat stores. And for me, it simplifies my day and I don't have to have breakfast. So what I'm doing is I'm only doing it on the days when I'm working. When I work, generally I start around 6 a.m.-ish. And that means eating breakfast at sort of 5:30 or so. All I'm going to do is basically not have that meal in my day. And instead, this morning, what I did is I basically got into work, completely fasted, and I just had coffee. Normally I have a coffee with collagen, so I have a coffee with collagen protein, and I've gone back to having my coffee with collagen protein and MCT powder, mono-chain triglycerides, otherwise known as fats. Basically, I'm having protein and fats as part of my breakfast coffee. It's about, top of my head, I think it's about 100 calories it works out at, maybe 120 calories that breakfast, but obviously no carbohydrates in there, just fats and proteins. And that will just keep me satiated for those few hours. So I class that as fasting. I know some of you maybe think I should just be drinking water if it's a true fast, but in my case, that's simple for me. I have that protein and fats, very few carbs in there. But no, I think there's 0 carbs in that breakfast. And that keeps me going until 1 p.m. where will I have my actual breakfast, breaking of the fast is the terms of breakfast. So I have that at 1 p.m. and then I can eat in an 8-hour window between 1 and 9 p.m. Now, the reason that works, that fits my lifestyle. Basically, when I get home from work, I'll either, if I get home before the kids' dinner, I'll eat dinner with the kids at 5 p.m. And if I don't, and I get home after that, normally it's around 6:30, 6:40-ish, then I will basically eat with my wife at around 7 o'clock, 7:30, depending on how the kids' bedtimes go and what dinner we're having, stuff like that. So that gives me an hour and a half window in which I have my evening meal and anything else that I sort of have alongside that. So far today, it's worked really well. I mean, it's a bit of a skew day because we deadlifted today. I did a deadlift and I did a few strength pieces after with some handstand press ups, strict and some strict just a bar pull-ups. That was my strength work. So nothing cardio in nature. But the reality is I should have enough carbohydrate stores from my evening meal to get me through any workout that comes my way. If I have 1 to 200 grams of carbohydrates, that glycogen should last me there. So the 800 calories, that's going to be about 200 grams of carbs. That's 800 calories of energy stored in glycogen or glucose, depending on when I have it. That's going to be glycogen when I'm training the next day. That should be more than enough to fuel any workout that I need. I'm going back to tracking my food. from this onwards, just to make sure that I eat enough calories. Obviously, I'm removing one meal from my day, which means that I need to make up that surplus to some extent the rest of my day. Especially for me, the key is making sure I have enough protein in my diet. So making sure I hit enough protein through the day. So what I'm basically going to do is effectively my breakfast, which is normally Greek yogurt with 1 scoop of a natural protein powder, I will have that after dinner rather than the next morning. I'm not going to be cutting down too many calories. It may be that I'm so full up that I struggle to meet my calorie target, which is fine as long as I feel satiated throughout the day. Like I say, happy to report today, I felt great fasted actually until 1 p.m. And I remember before being in that fasted condition, it felt pretty good as well. I'm not a believer in this story that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Most of the studies that have been provided around this, breakfast stops you eating more throughout the day. Most of those you'll find if you go back to who they were funded by and where they started, they're basically funded by breakfast companies. So companies that provide those breakfast cereals or breakfast biscuits, which is the other thing that you see. I haven't really seen any extensive studies where there's any proof that breakfast has been more effective in helping people to lose body fat. It doesn't make too much sense to me. Obviously, if you don't eat breakfast and then you suddenly get so hungry that you have, I don't know, the whole of Greg's for your lunch or something like that, then perhaps maybe breakfast is a good idea for you. I'm not saying it's the right idea for everyone to not have breakfast. I'm not saying skipping breakfast is the key to fat loss, but it just fits really well into my daily schedule. It actually makes it a bit easier for me to get to work on time because I haven't got to work getting that breakfast ready. And I'm perfectly happy because I'm busy in the mornings being fasted through until lunchtime. For others, it may be the other way around. It may be that you have that 8-hour window in the morning. So maybe you get up a bit later, maybe you eat at 7, and then you eat again. What's that? 5 hours, 7 hours, up until 3, and then you fast the rest of the day. My maths may be wrong. No, I think that's right. That's 8 hours there. That may be how you work. Giving it a little experiment. Like I say, it fits so nicely in my day. And actually, it's so much easier today to just get up and go and have a coffee whilst training clients. That I liked it. I will only be doing this on days where it suits. I have a fixed in breakfast with the kids on a Thursday and a Sunday when I get the kids up. Myself and my wife has that task the rest of the week. So well done to her for coping with those other 5 days, and thanks very much. But yeah, those 2 days when I get them up and do breakfast with them on a Thursday and a Sunday, I will have breakfast with them. I won't be sitting there fasted. I'll have breakfast with them. Really, those rules kind of go out the window. I still try and have 3 meals a day on those days, no snacking in between. But yeah, the other rules of my breakfast kind of go out the window so that I can just enjoy time with them. That's what I'm doing. You don't have to do it, but you can give it a try. You can maybe I always say, whenever you're doing any kind of fasting, find a schedule that works for you. There's no hard and fast rule. Other people will always talk about, no carbs after 5 or whatever that is. It just doesn't work in my lifestyle. I think if it did, then maybe I would. If every day I was home to have dinner with the kids, then maybe I would eat dinner with the kids at 5 p.m. and then I wouldn't have anything after then and try and work in my window slightly differently. But for me at the moment, this works perfectly. The other thing I'm going to possibly dabble with, and this is what I wanted to do, but I haven't got around to, is to maybe having a 24 or 36-hour fast once a week as well. This may run a bit later into this next week. I might do it next week. I'm not sure yet. I'm kind of going to see how things pan out, how I feel over the weekend, but I might experiment with that next week as well. And it's always good to have a little experiment. It's only you listen to my vlogs before or podcasts, whatever, you will know that when I've tried these fasting experiments, the main benefit, yes, there's a physical benefit. I actually feel like when I'm fasted, a little bit more hyped up. You have that kind of bat sense where you feel like all your senses are heightened because you're a little bit hungry. You just feel a bit more hyped up and your body is kind of maybe ready for the hunt. I think they say you get in that kind of hunter mode where you're a bit more primed because you're ready, because you need that food. I never really feel, because I know that I will be eating, and it's my choice. It's a choice not to eat until a certain time. I actually feel a little bit more liberated from fasting, and knowing you've got that set time. I'm not like looking at the clock thinking, "Oh my god, I can't wait till things," because you could choose to eat anytime you want, but it's kind of you empower yourself and you take that control that sometimes some of us food has a control over us. Those people, especially those of you that maybe you get that hangry feeling. I call it frangry. Sorry, Francesca. Because some people, my wife included, and I used to be this way as well, will get particularly pent up when they haven't had food, and they'll feel like there's a physiological effect happening to them. Their body is apparently shutting down and they're getting rage. But really, I've spoken about this many times before, but there's been several studies into this where they've got groups of people that claim they have this hunger symptom, this low blood sugar, maybe they call it, and they've put them alongside another group. They've tested their physiological, so their sort of what's happening in their body, the biology of their body. Is it different to the people that don't have those symptoms? And the answer in 99% of cases is no. There's no change. There's no biological difference. It's just a psychological craving for food, much like people crave cigarettes or alcohol, all those other drugs. It definitely shows. And I think people that have maybe a higher carbohydrate diet, a higher sugar diet, will experience those symptoms and they will get those crashes. So those of you that take part in our no booze, no sugar and have maybe a higher sugar diet or a high carbohydrate diet will experience a come down and a crash. And those people that have the same reaction when they go into a fast. So it's well worth dabbling with. It's well worth trying. I think it's, like I say, I think it's a liberating thing. I think it's a good mental experiment to do that. You just learn that actually you don't have to be eating all the time. It's not true. We talk about this no snack challenge. You don't have to be eating every 2 hours to stay alive. Your body's perfectly capable of coping for a long period of time without food. Think of the evolutionary nature of how we developed as humans. We haven't evolved over the last 200-300 years that we have to eat so frequently. Think about, pre the agricultural era, 1,000 years ago, whatever it was. My history is not great, but we won't evolve. You don't evolve much in 1,000 years. Let's say that it takes many thousands of years to evolve. So we are still perfectly capable of living for many days without feasts of food. We can survive perfectly well. And then that kind of, the hunting nature of humans, those humans that were hunter-gatherers, is that yes, you would basically get a big hunt, have a big feast, and then you would have to wait for your next big meal. And that's kind of where fasting takes us. And I think it's a great experiment to do. Some of you have it on a regular basis. The key is whenever you're doing this, is that you are still eating normally and getting the calories you need to do the rest of the time. What I would do if I'm fasting is I wouldn't try and top up and get to my weekly number. I would just go back to my regular daily amount. But my regular daily amount is a decent amount, 2,700 calories. It's not a huge calorie cut. If you have too fewer calories in your daily diet anyway, and then you try and fast, that is not a good idea. You need to be having realistic calorie numbers, and then you can start inputting fasting into your diet. Don't be having, the people that are on 1,000 calories, and then they're going to have a fast as well, and then they're going to do 16-8 in addition to that. You are not going to feel great. All right. I can do this because I'm going to maintain my 2,700 calories. I'm going to make sure I'm doing that where I have the 16. I'm going to try and keep that same number. It might go slightly fewer calories, but that would just purely be because I don't feel like I need it if I'm maybe full up in the evening. But if I have a 24-hour fast, then I'll make sure I eat enough on the Sunday. If I'm doing it on a Monday, I'll generally do it on a day when I'm at work rather than the day off, because the day off is impossible because you're just sitting around. Boredom is the most key ingredient for me to be wanting to eat. If I'm busy at work, busy training people, busy doing work, I don't need to eat. And because I'm at work, there's no access to kind of anything apart from I want to raid the fridge for protein bars and knockos, which I am not going to do. It's not good for you to do that. The temptation just isn't there, and I'm too lazy to go to the shops to get something to eat when I'm hungry. It's great for me. I'm not one of the people that drive to Ben and Jerry's when I need an ice cream. I know one of my clients just talk about that I definitely cannot be bothered to do that. I'd rather just not bother. Anyway, if I do that, I will let you know next week. I've rambled on enough for this video. 15 minutes is plenty to talk about. But yes, so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm basically going to a little fasting window for these last 10 days of No Sex Challenge. Feel free to experiment with that yourselves. And next week, potentially it will be on a Monday, because that's generally after my weekend, where maybe I had a few more carbs than I would do during the week. I'll potentially do a 24-hour, 36-hour, whatever. I just kind of fast until I feel like I need to eat it, which most like if I do a fast, let's just finish with this. If I do a fast, what will happen is I basically will eat Sunday. I will still have my collagen coffee when don't think that's part of my fasting period. I'm not as strict on that as maybe others may be, but I have my collagen coffee, and then I won't eat all of Monday, and then I'll fast until basically the Tuesday normal time I would eat, which would be 1 o'clock. That's, I don't know how long it is. What's that? 40 hours, I suppose. That's probably what I'll do. If I do, I'll just post that I am doing that. So you'll know if you follow me on my MyFitnessPal. I'll just post it anywhere. Post a little video to say that I'm doing that, maybe in the middle of the fast. And then we'll see how that goes. And if I feel okay, I might do that for the following Monday of the No Sex Challenge, even though it's a day over. Again, sometimes it's easier because it's not part of the challenge. So I'm kind of like, it's like a bonus day. You don't feel like you're forced to do it, so it might work quite well. Anyway, it's likely that will happen. I'll post an update on Monday if I do that, as well as my 16-8 or 8-16, what I call it. I hope you're having success with that No Sex Challenge. Some of you may have done a mid-term weigh-in. Some of you haven't. If you have any questions, please, I always say, please ask in the comments or drop me an email. I'm happy to help. If you're not sure on your macro balance when you're doing this, you're not sure how many calories you should be doing when you're doing this, if you're not sure you're doing it right, or maybe you have some weird experiences on it and how you feel, or some positives, please let me know that these videos are not for nothing and I'm just talking to myself. I hope you are getting some benefit, and I'll speak to you soon.